Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate the chance to be with you. And we look forward to, at some point, being able to hold a similar briefing in person. As many of you know, we started these community briefings just so we would have an opportunity to tell you about things that are going on across the city, with a particular focus on COVID-19 and trying every way we can to provide information to the community and through you, our community leaders, about where we are with the public health emergency, as well as other efforts we're undertaking across the city. So we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And as always, please do continue to provide feedback on whether this is providing valuable information to you and how we can best work with you to provide information to our community. We will have time at the end for questions and answers, so please do feel free to put those in the chat if you do have questions during the presentation. And with that, I'm going to turn to Acting Assistant City Manager Susan Klein to talk a little bit about COVID-19 and provide an update on vaccines. Susan, let me turn to you.
Great, thank you, Elaine. Good morning, everyone. So some good news on the COVID-19 update, even though it's always cautionary. Here are the latest numbers in case rates, deaths, and vaccination. Santa Monica continues to improve. The really great news is that over 37% of eligible Santa Monicans are now vaccinated. Next slide, please. So this graph shows where Santa Monica falls among our West Side neighbors for case counts. We are shown in the red bar. To the right includes our neighbors in Mar Vista, Westwood, West Hollywood, and Culver City that are slightly lower. And on the left includes neighborhoods in Playa Vista, Pacific Palisades, Beverly Hills, and Venice. Again, our community continues to remain steady and fare well in context, of course. As we continue to improve, we're planning on expanding in-person services as guidance and resources allow. So next slide. Clearly, the city has been providing critical services since last March and has expanded some services consistent with guidance. These are some of the locations that serve the public now and some locations that we are preparing to open soon. The City Hall East Public Counter is gearing up for regular open hours that will be posted, we hope, in the next couple of weeks. Also, a quick update on the construction at Historic City Hall is that we're targeting a move-in date in mid-May and hope to have regular open hours posted shortly thereafter. This will allow us to provide in-person service for rent control and city clerk functions. And I should mention also an update on the improvements in council chambers, which have been completed. And we're determining now how to best start up in-person public meetings in the chambers as well. It may initially be in the council chambers, but we may have, commission meetings, council meetings in the East Wing at the Civic Center. But we're evaluating what options are best to facilitate all the public health guidance and make sure that we're providing access in person and remotely where needed for the public. Next slide, please. On the vaccination front, we've got some more good news. On Thursday, everyone aged 50 plus will be eligible, in addition to everyone who is currently eligible. And on the 15th, eligibility opens up to everyone. I encourage you to please not wait to make your appointment. At some locations, you can schedule a time based on your eligibility now for a future appointment. We are not out of the woods yet. However, again, want to caution everyone as we do move towards greater reopening. But to keep us on this very positive trajectory, please get the safe, free, and effective vaccine for yourself and your loved ones. Next slide. So to do that, these are two great resources to find out when you're eligible at myturn.ca.gov. You can also make an appointment at vaccinatelacounty.com. So that's my update and overview of where we're at on COVID-19. Now I'll turn over to Lane and Anuj for budget updates. Thank you and stay safe.
Thanks so much, Susan. And I'll use this moment just to quickly say, in case we have anyone from our local hospitals on the call, how much we appreciate the partnership and the work of our healthcare workers across the city. I was at UCLA this morning for my second dose. I'm a patient of theirs and emergency services, of course, and they are running a great operation. We are also very grateful to Providence St. John's, which has been working with the school district and others to make sure that as groups become eligible, we can do everything we can to have services for our community up and running as soon as possible. So just across the pandemic, we are so grateful to have such excellent healthcare providers in Santa Monica. As some of you know, Council did have a community priority setting session on Saturday, March 13th. These community priorities are the beginning of our biennial budget process, hearing from our council about priorities for the community. You can see them written here. First one, addressing homelessness, which we know is an urgent and pressing concern in Santa Monica and across LA County. A clean and safe Santa Monica and public spaces ready for all to enjoy. And an equitable and inclusive economic recovery. Really looking at, as we come out of COVID, how is it that we're crafting our future that will be both thriving but also more equitable than the economy that we left. And that's something happening across the country, but also here in Santa Monica locally, we are very focused on. So we look forward to working with the entire community across these priorities. As a city government, we both focus on the outputs and outcomes that our city staff are achieving, but also on how we are collaborating together with our community priorities to achieve real results in the areas that matter most for our community members' lives. So we look forward to partnering with many of you across these areas to make real progress for Santa Monica and the bright future that we have ahead. Next slide, please. As we look at that, we do know that we are in a changed landscape. Our city budget has been significantly impacted by decreases to sales tax revenues, parking revenues, tourism occupancy tax revenues, and others. We do expect that the budget will remain relatively flat in this biennial budget process. There is no huge lift. And we also recognize that in this particular moment, we are more a part as a local government of a broader scheme potentially than ever before. So I'm going to turn to Anuj to talk a little bit about the American Rescue Plan and what that means for the Santa Monica community.
Good morning, everybody. It's nice to be with you all. As Lane indicated, the American Rescue Plan resources we're really looking at and focused on a much broader scale than simply the money that the legislation contains for the city of Santa Monica, the capital C, the city government, and really focused on the impact of this legislation on the small c city of Santa Monica, the community, our residents, our businesses, workforce here in the city. And the impact truly is massive, especially when you look at it through that scale. Overall, as many of you all know, the legislation infuses $1.9 trillion into the national economy. And some of just the highlights that will impact our residents' lives include, of course, the economic impact payments that have rolled out to many individuals already of $1,400 for individuals, $2,800 for married couples, and then $1,400 for each dependent. A massively impactful piece of the legislation is the increase in the child tax credit from $2,000 to $3,600 for kids under the age of 6 and $3,000 for any children under the age of 18. The credit amounts have been changed into direct payments through the end of 2021. That is functionally $300 a month or $250 a month per child in the bank accounts of eligible individuals, which is, according to most estimates, will have an impact of reducing child poverty in the country by half, which is hugely impactful. Of course, there's a tremendous amount of funding, $21.6 billion in funding for states, territories, and local governments to assist households on rental assistance and utility payments. That, of course, will ultimately supplement our local emergency rental assistance program that has been very impactful for the last several months, and state funds on to this end as well. And then the bill also extends pandemic unemployment assistance, the federal benefit of $300 a week through September, and increases the total number of weeks available to 79 weeks in all. There's also increases in SNAP payments, food stamp benefits, WIC payments, and many other needs to assist with basic needs in our community. There is that direct local support that we had been advocating for, that cities around the country had been advocating for. The ultimate amount was $29.3 million directly to the city of Santa Monica, and Lane will say a bit more about the process that we will be engaging with the council for allocating those funds on April 13th. And then we hope and anticipate that there will be more to come of federal investments in this new climate to help rebuild and recover from the crisis that we've all been living through over the past year. This week, President Biden will be unveiling what they're calling the Build Back Better plan, a $3 trillion federal infrastructure plan that will include investments not just in sort of the traditional physical infrastructure that we all think of, roads and bridges and water systems, et cetera, but also education, climate and energy, and workforce development and equity, which are likely, if that does move forward, to have, again, just a really massive impact, not just on city government, but more importantly, on the lives of our community members across the city. So that's the high-level federal picture. Again, it's a lot of positive news that we think really puts us on track to move towards a strong recovery and a bright future. So back to Lane.
Thanks, Anuj. As you've heard from Anuj, really important news and really important funding coming out of the federal government. And we do encourage all of our community partners to be watching those federal processes carefully. We are also watching them, not just for potential grants to the city government, but for grants to support the community, to our nonprofit partners, our small businesses, certainly the school district and others. It is a key piece of our recovery coming out of the federal government. With respect to the city budget, you have likely heard me say before that the recovery of city revenues is not imminent. We did have our AAA bond rating reaffirmed by the rating agencies last week. We are in a solid and stable financial position, but we do not have extra spending money in ways that we may have had in prior years. So as we look at the fiscal year 2021-2023 budget, the Chief Financial Officer, Gigi Decavalis-Hughes, and I are meeting with each department and working very hard to come up with smart and strategic ways to lift up certain city services that we know are very important to our community, but it will be very small lifts. As Anuj mentioned, the federal government is providing $29.3 million in a direct one-time infusion to the city of Santa Monica. That will come in two phases, split into half, one this year and one, I believe, next year, though Gigi certainly is managing the details on that. As we look at that, on April 13th, we'll talk with City Council about the different methods that money could be allocated between one-time and ongoing funds. So the key point we'll be presenting to council is we could spend the initial $14.5 million as one-time funds, but that's then projects that once you spend it, it's gone. It doesn't lift up overall city services. And we know that there are areas of need. For example, we are very eager to lift up our library services and to welcome the community to additional and expanded library services. If we program American Rescue Plan money to ongoing services, the money has to be programmed until our budget recovers. And what that means is that effectively for each 1 million you want to spend in ongoing, you need somewhere between 4 and 6 million to make sure that you can continue to spend that money until our budget is expected to recover. Gigi will walk the community and the city council through exactly how that works on April 13th so that we can continue to, as we have throughout the pandemic, ensure that we are using our resources as wisely as possible to ensure a stable and very bright future for the city. The city manager's budget will be published on May 10th and become available to the public. On May 25th, we hold the City Council study session to review and provide feedback on that budget in advance of adoption, and then the City Council will adopt the final fiscal year 2021-2022 budget and budget plan for 22-23 on June 22nd. So that is a process that internally is taking considerable time and attention and will be brought forward in these key City Council meetings to come. Next slide, Constance. And with that, let me turn to Christopher Smith, Chief of Staff in the City Manager's Office, who has been doing some incredible work with other members of the team who will be with you today on a 311 system for the city. And if I can, before I turn to Christopher, I will say simply that throughout the pandemic, we have done everything we can to provide community services as safely as possible across all of the cities and all of the areas in which we work. So as you know, we have had almost 1,000 city employees reporting to work sites every day, providing the essential services that we rely on as a community: fire, police, public safety, public works, water, wastewater, and transit for healthcare and essential workers, as well as all of the emergency operations to support all of that work. We've also been incredibly fortunate that the city was way ahead in terms of our teleworking capacity and was able to continue all of our planning, legal, and other work to support. And I should have mentioned earlier the childcare and outdoor recreation that we've been providing throughout the pandemic. All of that work has been supported by city employees who have been working at home throughout the pandemic in a teleworking space. The one gap that we've clearly identified was we quickly found that, and we'll probably hear the numbers here, but that we had some 1,400 phone numbers across the city to which the public were being directed in various ways. What we found was that there were areas where our customer service is not as strong as we want it to be. And as we look at a reduced city staff and reduced city budget and are trying to do things as efficiently as possible, but also look at the community's need for quick, responsive feedback from its city government. And then also as we looked at our public safety reform processes and the fact that people sometimes call the police for things that really don't require or necessitate or shouldn't have police response. All of that combined, we began looking at a 311 system for the city. And I'm extraordinarily grateful to the 3 individuals that you'll hear from today for their development of this key customer service tool that will be rolled out tomorrow and will work hand in hand with the website upgrades that we've been working on throughout the pandemic too. Christopher, I hope I haven't stolen too many of the things you were going to say. I don't think I have. I really appreciate the staff presenting this to you today. We hope this will be a key tool for our residents and community members going forward. I'll turn to you, Christopher.
Great, thank you, Lane. Hopefully I'm up on the camera now. I don't know. tell everyone in the system. But as Lane mentioned, I'm the city's chief of staff in the city manager's office. And as you can tell from Lane and me, hopefully, all the way down to our call agents who are going to be answering the phone starting tomorrow, we are genuinely excited about launching the Santa Monica 311 customer service program tomorrow. The city's had a long-standing commitment to high-quality customer service, but as Lane mentioned, we've really had some unique challenges through the pandemic, as our facilities have remained closed to the public, and our staff have had to adapt to restructured work environments and roles. We landed on doing a 311 project because we've identified 3 ways we believe we can improve our customer service delivery. First, we believe we can make information easier to find and in more ways. So today you'll hear about a new city app, new content on our new website, easier to use online forms that should make it easier to find what you're looking for anytime, day or night. We're also working to provide as much information as possible in both English and Spanish, and have customer agents who can support our Spanish language customers. Second, we're striving to answer your questions more quickly and completely. Our customer service agents will be able to have access to an answer database that will have answers that they can provide on most commonly asked questions, and they'll be the best people to navigate you to the service counter, best equipped to help you get what you need done. We strive to answer all our calls when they're received during normal business hours. So City Hall hours are 7:30 to 5:30, Monday through Thursday. And then we have this quirky thing where we're open every other Friday from 8 to 5. So during those hours, we strive to answer calls when they're received, but certainly try to get all voicemails and emails returned the same business day. We're also setting up tools, as you'll hear, to help us work with departments. So those things we can't answer when you call us, we're working with them to help have tools to better track and get those responses more quickly. And then, of course, just make it easier to reach us. As Lane mentioned, we have over 1,400 phone numbers. 311 is an easy to remember number, commonly used service in many cities across the country. Whether you're seeking to find out what is open or not open in town, pay your utility bill, or find out how to get a library card, our 311 agents will help you hopefully navigate that pretty quickly. So today with me are David Gardner and Jeremy Peterson, who are part of the 311 project team. I just want to quickly introduce them, and then I'll hand it over to them to give you more details. But David is a member of the city manager's office, and he has been active in city customer service over the last year, supervising our pandemic hotline, monitoring social media, and most recently working with all our city departments to develop answers that we can hopefully provide, that will provide quick resolution to calls. He's also one of our city's equity and inclusion officers with a deep commitment to try and make city services as accessible to as many people as possible. So I'm really excited to have him be part of this team. And Jeremy in our information services department has been, technology has really been an essential piece of launching 311. As you'll hear, Jeremy's helped us develop and launch an improved city app that's going to replace Santa Monica Works or Go systems. So if any of you have that on your phone, you'll learn about the new app we'll be launching tomorrow. Set up an answer database and call tracking system for our agents, and ensure that all of the different service providers like AT&T, Verizon, and number of others have activated the 311 service ahead of our launch. So what does this mean for you? Hopefully all of this means that we will launch a newly integrated and modernized customer service platform tomorrow that will enable customers to find information online, submit and track inquiries via web, mobile app, or phone, and we'll have a new, easy-to-remember phone number people can reach us at. So now I'm going to turn it over to David and Jeremy to tell you more about the details, and then I'll be back to answer any questions you have at the end. Thank you. David?
Thank you so much, Christopher. I'm so excited to be working on this project. Now, a lot of you have had interactions with the city's customer service system before, and if you have, then you probably don't need me to tell you that the current system can be very difficult to navigate. As we mentioned, there are more than 1,400 public phone numbers for customers to access services from the city, and as you might imagine, these numbers tend to be very busy. Oh, by the way, next slide, please, Constance. Awesome, thanks. Some of our busiest lines and channels to the public received over 110,000 calls and requests for service last year, which, by the way, is more than the number of people who live in Santa Monica. With such high volumes, there are many areas where requests can fall through the cracks, even though we as city staff always have the best of intentions. Also within this confusing system, the app that we've been using for customer requests, Santa Monica Works, is utilized differently in every department. The response times for customer emails and voicemails also varies widely by department. All of this results in an inconsistent and sometimes slow turnaround time for responding to customer requests, and this is exactly what we're hoping to modify with our new 311 system. Next slide, please. To streamline and improve the system, customers will, starting tomorrow, will be able to contact our call center with one easy-to-remember phone number for all of their non-emergency city needs. Like Christopher mentioned, this service will be available in Spanish and English, and we are working to add additional languages shortly after we launch. For this call center, all customer requests will be recorded and tracked in a new platform called ServiceNow, which is also going to power our mobile app and our 311 website in the same centralized system. Our 311 agents will be able to resolve many customer requests on their own, quickly and consistently, using the responses that we've worked with each department to provide the best information. We'll also be able to track better data on what you and our customers need, which will lead to improved service delivery as 311 continues to evolve. One last important note is that while 311 will be the city's new virtual front door for service, most of the direct phone numbers that you know, and maybe even love, will remain in operation for you to reach specific staff directly. With all of that being said, I'll now turn it over to Jeremy, who will walk us through all the bells and whistles that will be available to the public for accessing 311.
Thanks so much, David. So what I'm going to do this afternoon is just go over the sort of the technology and the back-end systems that we'll be creating. So as David and Christopher both mentioned, we're going to, in addition to standing up the call center, we're also going to be building out and have built out a new mobile app that will be available tomorrow, as well as an improved online experience. So here are some screenshots from the mobile app. And instead of us just looking at the screenshots, we'll actually do a demo of what that experience looks like in the app. Hello and welcome to the overview of our new City of Santa Monica mobile app. What you're seeing in front of you is a view of the brand new mobile app that will be rolling out on March 31st. We'll just do a quick overview of all the features that you can expect in this new mobile app, and we'll also go through the process of submitting a request together. So as you can see, starting from top to bottom, we now bring in our new 311 phone number, which is a dedicated call center that you can reach with any questions, inquiries, or just general information related to the city. This service is available in both English and Spanish and can be reached during normal operating hours by just pushing the phone icon here at the top and pulling up that 311 phone number. What you'll also notice is that we have our way to submit requests using our request something button, latest news from around the city, FAQs, and then a map view that we'll be going over in a little bit. Here down at the bottom, we also have a news feed so that you can get the latest in blog posts and press releases from across the city. And if you wanted more information, you could always just press the More News button and search from a base of our news articles, or scroll all the way to the bottom, press More News, and be taken to the full list of Santa Monica related blog posts and press releases. So going back to our homepage, we're opening our mobile app. We have a question or we have something that we want to request. We would push the button that would say request something. Here you'll see a full list of city services, request types, broken down into categories and subcategories. And what you can do is either scroll through them here to see what you're interested in, or type any keywords that you want up in here. So for example, if we had wanted to report a pothole, we could type in the word potholes, and you'll notice that that comes up immediately in our results. So if I were to click that, I'm then prompted to either take a photo using the camera on my phone or select a photo that maybe I took and now reporting that I'm at home at a later time. So this select photo button will pull directly from your camera roll. The first button will open up your camera. So in this example, I don't have a photo. I saw it when I was driving, wanted to report it when I got home. I'll press next without an image. I can then type in the location of where this happened. So if I were to type in 1313 Main Street, Santa Monica, I could do it that way. And let's say that this is generally speaking where I saw the pothole, but maybe I wanted to move it a little bit. What you could do is just move the map and put that pin directly where you want to report something. So say the pothole was here. So next I'm going to continue. I could either press next without a location if I didn't have one, but in this example I do. So I'm going to press use this location. And then it's going to prompt me for some details about my request. So here, because I have already created a profile, you'll see that my first name, last name, and email address comes in. If you don't set up a profile and want to report it anonymously, that's perfectly fine. None of this information will be populated, but by providing this information, you can get alerts and updates sent directly to your email address about what's happening. So in this example, I could say I was driving and ran over a pothole. Can you please send someone to fix that? So that's going to be the information that I provide. We would want the information to typically be much more detailed, to include a photo or a location or as much detail as possible so that staff can help find it. But in this example, we're just going to use that. And then we're going to press submit. This will then give us a case number that we could save, or like I said, we will be sending confirmation emails if you provide an email address, and then we can close this. What you'll then notice is in some of these other areas, if I clicked requests, it was pull up a list of all the requests that I've submitted in the past. So I can click here on the latest one, and it will give me the details that I provided about that. So the question that I submitted, the location, the date, time, and a photo if I had uploaded one. What I can also do is click on map, either here at the bottom or on the home page with map view, and it will show other requests that have been submitted in the area. So these are requests that are still outstanding, and what you can do is maybe before reporting a request, see if it's already been reported by looking at the map view and know that somebody else has already submitted it and staff is working diligently to make sure that that's handled. Or what you could do is say, you know what, nothing's been submitted already in this area. Let me go ahead and provide that to the city. So this is an overview of what will be offered in version 1 of our mobile app. If you were to click on one of these real quick, you could also see the same details that we just saw in our requests here on the map. All of these features, like I mentioned, will be available in version 1. And as we continue to build out the app, hear community input, and integrate new technologies, these functionalities will continue to grow and grow over time to provide additional services directly here in our mobile app. So that's a brief overview of our new mobile app. And one of the things that is important to emphasize that this is version 1 of our app. And the reason that we're going in this direction and retiring our existing system of Santa Monica Works is not only the flexibility that it gives us from the back end and the data that we're able to collect, but also the ability for us to continue to grow and evolve the app. So in the current system, we're essentially locked into just being able to submit requests, but we understand that there's community needs that go beyond that. So you'll notice, which I didn't touch on, was the city FAQs. So you can find frequently asked questions there. You can also, like I mentioned, see the latest news and updates. And as we're evaluating other technology that's already in our portfolio or new technology that we're bringing in, we're always going to be evaluating it against how can people access this information on the website and what makes sense to bring into the mobile view experience as well. The next slide. So in addition to having the mobile app, the big emphasis that we have is really making sure that people can get the questions they answered that they have, or submit a request, or call, whatever means are most comfortable to them. And for some people, downloading an app isn't the way that they want to submit a request. So we are introducing a brand new online portal that will be available, and we'll have all those same items that we just discussed as far as being able to submit request, ask a question, or find frequently asked questions as well. And this is just a quick view of what that new online portal will look like. Next slide. So again, we really want to make sure that the community has all the tools that they need and that we are responsive in a way that makes most sense for that particular member of our community. So at our new website, santamonica.gov/311, we've really tried to make it transparent and clear in how you can engage with the city, regardless of the platform that you're most comfortable on. And so as you'll see here, we have information about the mobile app, what it does and how to download it. If you were to click on the online tab, it will tell you how to submit a request, ask a question, or engage with us online. The same would be true for by phone on how to call our call center, the hours of operations, or by email, how to reach us there. We've also included some FAQs, so things like what hours are we open, when should I use 311 versus an emergency line, things like that. With each of these tools, what we're really going to be doing too is evaluating the analytics, all of the data that we have, and making informed decisions to better serve the community in how we're developing these programs and what information we're providing as well. So with that being said, I will hand it back over to Christopher.
Great. Thank you so much, David and Jeremy. I just wanted to close out by reminding everyone of a couple key ways to find more information. So one is we do have the website, santamonica.gov/311. That includes information that Jeremy showed on his screen. That's also where you can start to download or reach out to the app libraries to download the new Santa Monica City app, since we will be sunsetting the Go or Santa Monica Works app in the next week or so. Also, I wanted to let everyone know there's a peculiarity with 311. It is something that's used in a mobile age. It uses GPS technology to route you to the 311 service center in your city, if one exists. So if you are near the border of Los Angeles or in Los Angeles when you call 311, you may be taken to the Los Angeles 311 service center instead of Santa Monica. In that case, we have another phone number for you to use. It's 866-311-SAMO, and that will get you to our 311 service desk anywhere in the world, calling from anywhere in the world. So just wanted to point out those two things. But we're excited to launch tomorrow, and I think I'm going to turn it over to Lane for some final remarks.
Great, thanks, Christopher. Let's see, next slide. We just wanted to highlight a couple of updates and opportunities. We are aware that the pandemic and outdoor dining and people's desire to be in beautiful outdoor spaces like we have so many of has changed trash patterns within the city. And it is really important to us and one of the community priorities set by council to keep our city clean. So we are engaging in an outreach effort to try to bring our community in and to remind people to break down boxes as they throw them away and to support the city by making sure to put trash in and recycling in correct bins, and really to bring public attention to the need for everybody to work together to make sure, particularly as people are doing more outdoor dining and we have more people in the city, that it's important to all of us to keep our city clean and fresh for everyone. You'll also see Seascape hitting mailboxes this week. We have encouraged people to take the city manager recruitment survey, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second, but that is available at santamonica.gov if you have not yet weighed in on what you would like to see in the administrative leader of the city. I hope that you will. There are application processes are still open for the Public Safety Reform and Oversight Commission, which will be appointed by the City Council, and for the We Are Santa Monica Fund Advisory Board, which will advise the city manager in the distribution of We Are Santa Monica Fund funds to support council priorities. And then lastly, we're very excited to announce a new Samo Small Business Recovery Grant, a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce that provides small grants to our most local small businesses. As we all know, during the pandemic, different industries and populations were hit in very different ways. We know that our small businesses have really struggled with decreased foot traffic, decreased sales, and restaurants and others not being able to operate at full capacity. We want to do everything we can to help, and we're encouraging our partners across the business community and even our community members also support the local businesses that make Santa Monica such a special place. So more information about that grant program at calfund.org. Do you mind going back for just 1 second, Constance? calfund.org /We Are Santa Monica. And let me there just highlight the We Are Santa Monica Fund is something that we hope will continue long past the pandemic. We are very excited about the American Rescue Plan infusing much needed resources into our community, but we also know that there are specific local needs that we can often see, and we know that Santa Monicans like to support their neighbors. So I hope that you will pay attention to the We Are Santa Monica Fund as an opportunity for neighbors to support each other as we come out of the pandemic and as we learn which areas will recover more than others, and as we as a city do everything we can to support new and changed coming out of COVID. Next slide. So upcoming key dates, we hope you'll join us tonight for the Housing Element Study session, which is obviously a key moment for the City Council to provide direction regarding the housing element, which is of tremendous importance to our long-term planning as a city. On April 1st, we'll begin the police chief recruitment. That recruitment is also being run by Ralph Anderson and Associates. They will begin recruiting candidates on April 1st. The police chief Chief Seabrooks and I will play a role in that process, but the police chief will ultimately be selected by the incoming city manager. On April 10th, Ralph Anderson and Associates will hold a listening session to hear from the community about qualities you're looking for in the next city manager. And I should say on here, we don't have a date for my timing listed because I am working with Ralph Anderson and Associates and the City Council Ad Hoc Committee to try to align my timing, my departure as the city manager as closely as possible with the incoming city manager. We have a very strong team in the city manager's office with Susan Klein and Anuj Gupta and Christopher Smith, who you've seen today. But we do not want the city to be down a person, so I will do everything I can to support the city through at least the beginning of the budget process, and hopefully until that selection process is complete, so that the team is not working with one person down in the last days of the pandemic. As we look at that, April 13th, we have a meeting that will include the American Rescue Plan allocation, council deciding how much of that money they want to use one time versus ongoing. And then April 27th, we'll begin our boards and commissions review, and council will also consider its legislative platform and policy preferences related to the city's efforts in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. May 10th, as I mentioned, the budget book will be released ahead of the council study session. And May 11th, we do expect OIR Group to present the May 31st after action report. So lots of key dates coming up. And we are happy to answer questions. We've had a few come in that I can address, and then I'll set some up for the 311 team. Before the meeting, we were asked about the traffic engineering study regarding the safety at Ocean and regarding the intersection at Ocean in California and safety there. Our mobility team is continuing to evaluate that intersection, which does meet all engineering standards. The data is showing that vehicle flows are currently working at the intersection. Saturday afternoon appears to be peak usage, and maximum wait time to pass through the intersection at that time is 1 to 2 light cycles. Other times cars are clearing that light during their cycle. We do understand that intersection introduces new traffic patterns, and the mobility team will be continually monitoring that intersection and also working to share educational information and safety tips with motorists, cyclists, and pedestrian, and you have likely seen some of those signs coming up on Ocean regarding that intersection. We also received a question about the city's use of surveys. We do use a combination of statistically valid surveys and surveys that are more of community engagement tools. So statistically valid surveys do cost quite more and up to about $50,000 per survey and require lead time. We work with Paul Goodwin and others on such surveys for example, ballot measures and a significant community survey that we run periodically. There are other times where our primary goal really is to engage the community and to hear from the community and to try to bring people into our processes. Those are also times when, for example, we'll see public meetings and other things generating input in other ways. So an example of that is the survey that was run for the community priorities and council's priority setting session. We did try to distribute information about that survey to all residents because we want as many residents as possible to weigh in before council sets its priorities. But ultimately, with a survey like that, what we're doing is providing information to council about the way it was conducted, and council can choose to weight it however they see fit based on the information about how it was conducted. It is also a community engagement tool because we simply want people to participate and have access to their local government. I did see other questions in the chat, and maybe first we'll address.
Field those. Thanks, Lane. So we did get a couple of questions in the chat with regards to 311. One, I think, is pretty straightforward to answer, which may have been answered by the presentation, which is that this is indeed a replacement for Santa Monica Works, as well as a few other things, the COVID-19 hotline and other inputs, and definitely is deliberately intended to address some of the challenges with format and responsiveness of that system with a much improved and more comprehensive system. And then, Christopher, maybe you can take this one, which is, will the city be getting back to a person who makes a code enforcement complaint? Does 311 deal with code enforcement?
Great, thanks, Anuj. Just quickly on the previous question, I just wanted to make it explicit that people who have the Santa Monica Works app downloaded on their phone or mobile device, you will need to download a new app and eventually delete the previous app because it will be sunset. And you can find links to the new app on that santamonica.gov/311 website. That is where the new ticketing system that will reach out to get routed to the proper departments will be located. And as you saw in the video, where you can track and see where other tickets have been submitted about. In terms of code enforcement, you can and should call 311 related to code enforcement. And we will create a ticket that can be tracked. Our code enforcement team is, of course, trying to deal with many fronts during the pandemic, and their team has been extremely stretched thin. But this is a place you can call 311 for submitting that kind of issue, and we will create a ticket that can then be tracked, and you can follow up through that, and we will have information through the system about their response to that ticket as well.
Thanks, Christopher. We did get another question with regards to vaccination sites in Santa Monica. Can you make an appointment directly, or do you need to go through the county for appointments? Susan, did you want to field that one? Or?
Yeah, I can take that one. So yeah, you should go through vaccinatelacounty.com. The website will pull up, you can search either by location type if you want to go to a mega site like the Forum, or if you want to go to a local pharmacy, CVS, or Vaughn's perhaps. You can go through the different appointment processes on vaccinateLAcounty.com. However, if you do want to try to get an extra dose, there's no way to schedule that or to queue up on those websites. You have to physically go into the location if that's what you're trying to do. But otherwise, please do go through vaccinateLAcounty.com.
Thank you, Susan. We got a question, I believe, from Andrina with regards to the information on vaccines. Will it be shared with Virginia Avenue Park Administration? And I can share just generally on that point. We've been amplifying, the county messaging as well as state guidance on vaccines internally across our city staff, and then also directly with the community through our community newsletter, our social media, website feeds, etc. But definitely, we are happy to follow up with the Virginia Avenue Park staff and community groups and constituents there with regards to the April 1st and April 15th. Deadlines and dates as well. And then I can address one additional question I think that just came in as a follow-up on the Ocean Avenue, Ocean, California intersection, which is with regards to our community engagement and response to concerns. So just communicating actually in real time with our mobility team there is that our mobility staff is responding to all inquiries that do come in on the project, and has been in touch with neighborhood group leadership with regards to that project, and happy to appear at future neighborhood group meetings to discuss the project. And then, as Lane indicated in her response, they are working on further education, informational graphics, a blog post, and ensuring a much broader reach than typical messaging, given some of the concerns that have arisen on that project.
Great. Well, if we don't have further questions, thank you to everyone for joining us. Please do let us know if there are topics that are of interest. Our goal here really is to communicate with our community leaders in order to provide as much information as we can. So we appreciate you being with us, and we look forward to seeing you at council meetings and the like in the future. Thanks, everyone.